You're listening to Omnicast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Dannon.
And today we want to talk about advertising for businesses. And one of the things that I hear the most is, well, we're a business and we're trying to reach other businesses. So we don't want to be advertising on Facebook, Google, Twitter. Where we want to be is LinkedIn. So the question is that the right way to think about this? Can it be done better? So Dannon, what's your take on this?
I like LinkedIn for a lot of things, but I think what we've seen is LinkedIn is a place where businesses are there trying to sell to other businesses. And so everyone's trying to sell to everybody and no one's really paying attention to what's going on there.
Okay. And it's been a long time since I ran a big LinkedIn campaign. And part of that is because I'm telling people that this isn't necessarily where we want to start. Facebook's gotten a lot better on its B2B targeting, but it's still not quite there. So where B2B targeting is concerned, let's say that you're coming out at this and you don't have a list of contacts that you want to advertise to, which is a whole nother episode that we may have already done. But let's just say that you want to target by company size and by occupation and verticals and all that kind of stuff. Right. LinkedIn is probably the best platform because everybody that's on there, as long as their information is up to date, you're going to be able to target people very well by the kind of business they do and the companies they do businesses for.
Right. Would it be helpful to do what is LinkedIn good at?
So if you're looking for a job, that's kind of my impression is that the people who are on LinkedIn, and this is a generalization, and I know that I'm going to get somebody commenting that this is wrong. In fact, I encourage you to comment that this is wrong. But it's for people looking for jobs, and then it's salespeople looking to sell to other businesses directly. Right. And I'm getting hit with those every day, and I ignore them. Mm-hmm. That's how I engage.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But again, if you were just going to send out ads to people, well, so one, is your audience there? That's the biggest question I think you have to ask.
And I think that's a good starting point.
Okay. So if we're starting at the top of the funnel, which is where we should always start, is our audience there? And do they care to hear from us in this platform? And I think the only way that you can truly tell that is by starting to flight some ads. The other way you can do it, though, is through remarketing. And this is where I like LinkedIn and this is where I like Twitter. Both of them have remarketing pixels you can put on your website, and then you can go out there and you can see, are your ads actually delivering on these platforms and are people clicking on them in a remarketing? If they are, then it might be a great place to launch awareness ads.
Well, and I think that's a very efficient way to use LinkedIn because it's much more expensive than doing a Facebook or a Google display campaign.
Correct.
So by using it for remarketing, you are now only showing ads to people who have already passed that awareness stage. And you can spend, because it costs more, you can only hit people that might be ready for consideration.
Now, that question of costing more, though, is it costing more because it's more valuable? Is it because there are too many advertisers and not enough audience?
I would go with that one. I think LinkedIn has some weird quirks where if you're business to business, I think what's most important is to know who in that business actually hires your service, because just sending these ads out into space to another company, you may be hitting 1,000 people in a 1,000-person company, but there's only one person there that would actually hire you.
So you actually, in LinkedIn, you can segment it off by seniority. And so you can hit those middle managers, you can hit your C-suite, you can. But again, I agree with you. You have to know who your decision makers are. Mm-hmm. And even with big deals, your decision maker might be an administrative assistant to a CEO. It might be an intern in HR, right?
Well, and corporate structures are very odd. In some situations, the person who actually makes the decision, they won't be on LinkedIn. They won't give a shit about your ads. They don't care what you do. They listen to the recommendation of their admin or someone in another department. They just have the final approval. So who do you send your ad to? If you target C-suite, they're not. They might push all that.
We can fix it in post.
They might push that decision making down the ladder.
Right. Now, would it be good though for the awareness stage for that CEO to be like, oh yeah, I've heard of them. That's great. Good decision. Pat on the back, right?
Right.
The more people in the organization who are going to say yes to that decision, sign off, who are involved in that decision making process, it's probably good to hit them.
I would agree. So here's one twist on that, and how I would think about it. How many people are on LinkedIn that are not on Facebook?
Actively.
Because
I know where you're going with this, and this is ultimately my answer as well. But they have to be actively on Facebook in order for that to be an alternative to LinkedIn.
Right. But if you're talking strictly awareness, then
why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Like if you're talking about the awareness, so you want to gain awareness with the CEOs, right? Now, ultimately, someone else in that company brings you up, but they've heard of you at that point. And so you're much more likely to be recommended. So if you're talking about straight awareness, those same people that are on LinkedIn are probably also active on another social platform.
You hope. And that's where it gets, that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Now, I think you can proof it out by flighting ads and watching the feedback.
Or hell, maybe why can't you just procure a list of email addresses at an organization and then upload those to Google, upload those to Facebook, upload those to Twitter? Because really, when it comes to ads, and this is I think ultimately where I'm going here is, and I think where you're going is, the right place to show your ad is where your audience is. The wrong place to show your ad is where your audience isn't. Right. And so if your ad, even if it's a B2B context, is hanging out on on a handheld gaming, on a iOS game, then it's probably helpful to have your ad there.
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't do social networks.
Because that's the thing. Everybody in whatever company you're trying to target, they're a person and they have other social platforms. So it doesn't really matter where your ad shows. So if all things being equal, why would you pay the extra cost for LinkedIn if you can hit them on Facebook?
Correct. But if you can get the click in LinkedIn. So here's the other way you could approach this is you could use that LinkedIn as the mouth of a funnel. You could flight an ad that leads them back to your website. And I would almost say make that ad as either helpful as possible or as sensational as possible. What you need to do is you need to win that click. Once you've won that click and you need to do that everywhere anyway, but once you've gotten that click and you get somebody on your website, then you can remarket through all of the other platforms. Again, Google, Facebook, programmatic, all that stuff, right? You can go out there and you can flight those ads everywhere now that you've gotten that right persona through the door. And because you can dial in that persona so well on LinkedIn, it might be worth paying that exceptional click cost.
Just to get them in the funnel?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and you could even do unique landing pages if you have enough money to get a volume of people there. You could even do a unique landing page that the only people who are coming here are people in the C-suite. The way I know that's only people in the C-suite is because that's who I targeted on LinkedIn, and that's the only entryway into this page.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if I have any other ideas behind that. Do you?
No, I don't. I think ultimately LinkedIn, the value of LinkedIn is going to be dictated by whether or not it works for you. And I think the only way to know, like, you can make some educated guesses based on your audience, who you're trying to hit, who have purchased before. You can make some educated guesses, but ultimately you need to flight some ads.
Yeah.
And not a large scale, but you need to flight some and see how it works.
Well, and I'm sorry, you also said something earlier that I thought we were going to hit on, and we didn't end up hitting on it. So I want to jump back into that, which was those decision makers. Those people actually are going to decide whether to purchase your product or not using LinkedIn. How can you find that out? LinkedIn Pixel. Yeah. So if you get an audience of 300 people, you have the LinkedIn Pixel firing on your website, you can see the positions of the people who are coming by your website.
Right.
And that is most likely going to be people who are either decision makers or they influence the decision makers.
Yes. Well, and that's why I've always liked the idea of advertising lead magnets on LinkedIn. So you can get them to your custom web page or download an ebook, whatever. So you can get that information.
Right.
I think that's the absolute best use.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I
Okay.
mean, just call us before you start running ads so we can help you figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So find us on Omniphonic. Again, if you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. This is actually something that I don't know that there's, I still don't know how I feel about LinkedIn at the end of the day,
Well,
especially as they're growing. They're
Yeah.
changing everything around all the time right now.
I think it'd be very interesting to hear from someone who's had a lot of success on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are agencies out there. In fact, I was just listening to an older Social Media Examiner podcast episode where they were talking to a guy who runs an agency that all he does is run ads on LinkedIn. Apparently, he's very successful at it. So there is opportunity to be found there if you know what you're doing. So, but yeah, any feedback our audience has, absolutely would love to hear it. So find us at omniphonic.com and leave us a message, send us an email, whatever. Any way you can reach us, we'd love to hear from you.
All right.
All right. Until next time.